All right. Hello, hello. Welcome to the M360 live community sessions. This is where we build skills, structure, and self mastery that is required to run a business that serves your life as well as your bank account. So, today's session is how audience building actually works in 2026. And if this is the kind of slime free business guidance that we focus on. So, if this is something that you've been looking for, please make sure to like and subscribe. So today is a swift 30 minutes. So we're going to dive right in. If everyone's ready, give me a nice GTG, a good to go in that chat. And we're going to go ahead and dive right in. Now, in true fashion of life, I had a lovely set prepared, cute little slides and the whole thing. And none of that's working, but that's okay. We're just going to get right into it. So, for our members, I just wanted to remind you that we have our mastery pieces for the month of February. You do not have to become a member to join along with us with our mastery pieces. These are self mastery and business mastery quests that move you to become the masterpiece that you are. So, our first one is the self mastery quest, which is for a visualization. Now, this is about training your mind to live from the future that you're building, not the mood you woke up in. So each day this month, we are practicing a simple visualization technique that helps us walk through our day and prepare for what we're going to do and how we're going to move through it. So, from a psychology standpoint, this is an identity based change because when you consistently visualize and mentally rehearse and emotionally connect your day to the next version of yourself, your brain starts filtering information differently. It literally begins looking for alignment instead of reacting to what's thrown in front of you. This is not about positive thinking or visualizing, some great end result. This is actually preparation. You are teaching your nervous system what a clear, steady day feels like before it begins. So your behavior follows that pattern. That's why we do this every morning and evening. So in the evening, you're going to walk through your day ahead. You're going to visually close the eyes. You're going to see yourself waking up. You're going to see yourself, whatever you do. So if it's scrolling on Instagram, if it's stumbling for some coffee, that's what we want you to visualize, each single part. And what do you have on your to-do list? And then what happens next? Walk through that day ahead. You're going to do that in the evening. And in the morning, you do the same thing. Usually it's a little quicker, but you reconnect to the plan that you've already decided on. And over time, what happens with this practice is it reduces friction, indecision, and self sabotage. You're not asking, what should I do today? You've already decided and your brain's on board with you. So that is the self mastery quest. If you want to join with us for the month, this whole month, that's what we're doing. And for the other side, our business mastery quest. So our business mastery quest this month is closing out the day. This is a very important and specific practice. So if you are a solopreneur, this matters so much because no one closes the day for you. There's no office lights turning off. There's no boss saying, see you tomorrow. There's no clear boundary. So if you do not end the day intentionally, it never ends. Yeah, I think we all have that feeling, right? It never ends. So you can be off your laptop and still be mentally at work. You can still be thinking about that email that you didn't send or still carrying that task you didn't decide on. That's not a life first business, right? That is work bleeding into everything. So this quest changes one specific skill, right? Ending the workday cleanly. So how you do this is you're going to look at your list, right? You're going to look at your to-do list for the day at this, whenever you're getting to what you'd hope to be the end, and you're going to cross off what has been done. Anything that is still left on that list gets one of three decisions. You're either going to do it now. Oh, I forgot to make that call. You're going to do it now. You're going to schedule specifically when to do it next, a real time, not just a generic space, or we delete it. Maybe it wasn't important. No vague, I'll get to it, because once we cross that out, that's it. The day is finished. And you are telling your brain, nothing is chasing me. Work is contained and I am allowed to be off. And that is where real rest happens. And real rest is what makes focused work possible for the next day, right? It's not about productivity. It is about creating a boundary in a business that doesn't naturally have one. And that is the business mastery. That is the business quest. All right. So we have to see everybody in there. We are getting along here. So the power word, our final part of our quest for this month, our power word is great. All right. So great is not about scale. It's not about perfection, and it's not about comparison. So psychologically, words act like filters. And whatever word you anchor to becomes the lens in which you evaluate yourself and your work. So in this case, great asks a different question than just more, better, or successful. It is asking you, what would great look like today? And if you can, go ahead and answer that. Let's get in the chat. What would great look like today? What actually deserves excellence and what doesn't? Where am I ready? Where am I already doing something great that I've been minimizing? The word pulls us out of hustle for hustle's sake, constant dissatisfaction, or moving goalposts and into discernment. Great is a standard, not a pressure. It is an orientation towards quality, alignment, and sufficiency. So hold that word this month, right? Great things in February, great movement, you're great, whatever that is, right? Write that down and hold on to it as your power word this month. All right. So that's our quest. Those are the things that help us grow and continue and get better as our time goes on. Hang on to those. And now we're going to dive into our topic. So the topic for today is how audience building actually works in 2026. And again, we will share the slides because I can't show them right now, but we will share some slides so you can kind of recap this in your brain, take some of those mental notes when you see them. And I will share that link down below when this is all done. So first, as we look into this, what does audience building even mean in 2026, right? What does it even mean? Because it used to mean followers, right? It used to mean reach, right? How many numbers, how far did it go? But the reality now is reach is kind of cheap. Attention is fragmented, and a follow is literally the least someone can do, like the least they can do, like no effort at all. And it doesn't even mean that they'll actually see you again because algorithms, right? And if that wasn't enough, with years of inflated, flashy marketing, trust is scarce, right? That is what you are up against. All those things, but the trust is scarce. Oh man, that is almost more than anything else. And I know it sucks. Okay. There has been a lot of bad players, bad tactics, and it soured a lot of people. This is what we're entering into as we go. How do I build and create something that people want to connect with, right? So to build an audience now, it means to gather people that recognize themselves in your perspective, right? Write that down. This is the first thing we want to look at. This is gathering people that recognize themselves in your perspective. What the heck does that mean, Tanya? All right. That means that you're attracting people who already share your values or priorities and way of thinking about the problem. Okay. It means that they agree with your standards because you've shared them, right? It means that they care about the same outcomes because you've shared that that's your focus. It means they see the world of business or whatever it is that you do in industry you're in, they see it the way you do, right? It means that when you explain something, it feels familiar. They agree, they get it, right? It means they don't need to be convinced of your philosophy before they consider your offer. It means alignment exists before you ever try to sell. Okay, sounds really neat, lofty. Okay, what does that look like? And it looks like consistent engagement from the same kinds of people, right? Not the random spikes from everyone. It looks like people responding to your content because it applies to them, not because it was trending. It looks like replies, comments, conversations that reference their real situation. It looks like your content naturally attracting a specific type of person over time, asking people deeper questions instead of the surface level stuff. And your email list growing steadily, not explosively, with people who can actually open, who actually want to open and read it. I have a client who hired a marketing company a few years back who promised to get them the numbers, and goodness, they did. there was a lot of people who didn't open emails, right? So we had this huge list and a bunch of non-engaged people because it's not that hard to convince people to do the lowest minimal work, right? To click the follow or to get a freebie that sounds interesting to them. But do they want to stick around? Do they want to stick around for your standards, your belief, and what you say, right? So it looks like selling something calmer or feeling calmer in selling because the people hearing you already understand how you think. That's what it looks like. It's not viral, it's not massive, it is aligned. Okay. I'm gonna just take that all in right there. All right. So listen, while algorithms still matter, behaviors matter more. Okay, we're talking about audiences in 2026. Yes, algorithm matter. If you work with me at all, you understand like I tell you, know the playing field, but we are not trying to please the algorithm. We understand it. We understand what works and what doesn't, but our goal is still to show up the way we want. So the behavior that we get from others matters way more than what the algorithm says works or pushes you. So what this looks like, what are the behaviors that we're looking for as a measure of success of audience building in 2026? We are looking for replies, and especially those email replies. I'm going to talk about email in a bit if you're like, well, I don't do a lot of email. Email replies is a really, really good indicator of the health of your audience. DMs that reference something specific that you said, if that's the platform you're on where there's DMs. People forwarding your emails, right? People saying that this sounded like you were in my head, right? Those are audience signals. I want you to hear this, what I'm about to say. Those are audience signals. Likes and followers, exposure signals. Likes and followers are exposure signals, all right? Not audience signals. Just because I've been exposed to the flu doesn't mean I'm a fan of it, right? Okay, so that's what I'm saying with this. And I also want you to understand, this is another note part since I don't have the cool slides. Audience is a business asset, not a marketing task. Hear that. Audience is a business asset, not a marketing task. Most people treat the audience like something you do on social, something you'll focus on after the other things are ready. But an audience is an asset that compounds. It is something that reduces friction everywhere else in your business, something that gives feedback before you lock in decisions. Audience is what sharpens your thinking, clarifies your message, tells you what actually matters, and makes selling feel lighter later. And the last part before we get into some of the details of what we're going to do to build here is that social platforms are not and never were your audience. But it is even a more critical point to understand that in 2026. If you're still playing with fire by building your home on rented land, it is time to get serious about a better plan. Now, I know I have some pretty awesome people in my audience, but what I know I don't have is the person who owns Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, or any other social channel. Okay, if you are here, hi, not sure what you need from me, but cool. You don't own it. All right. And we've all heard the horror stories of audiences and access disappearing overnight. It happened to me 5 years ago, and I never got that access back. And unlike others, I actually had an insider that could help me get my profile back. But I did get my profile back, but I never got my business pages back. And a fun fact, the only person that was left with access to our accounts by a fluke was our VA at the time. But because she didn't have permissions to add anyone, she couldn't add me back. And that was it. That was it. We were stuck in this loop, and the social media gods were zero help at that point. So that page I had that I had built, that I had connection to, because I did not have everybody's email, that was gone overnight. You need to understand that social platforms are discovery layers. Okay, I'm going to tell you 3 things of what your social platforms really are. So, and take note on this. All right. Your social platforms are discovery layers, number 1. This is where new people find you through search, through shares, through the algorithm. This is the top of funnel. It's visibility, not relationship. Hear that? Visibility, not relationship. So first one, it's discovery. Second, distribution. Okay, social platforms are distribution layers. This is where your ideas can travel, right? You post once and it gets shared or saved, commented on, reposted. Your thinking moves beyond your immediate circle. It spreads, but it does not deepen on its own. And the third thing it is, it's a practice field. This is where you refine your message, you test the angles, you see what lands, and you learn how to explain what you do clearly, right? It is rehearsal in public. And I know that scares a lot of us because we're like, I don't want to mess up. It's the best place to mess up. Do it, get out there. I just shared with someone today, I said, if you knew that you were 25 fails away from success, how quick would you fail? How quick would you get out there and fail? All right. So to recap this, again, your social platforms are discovery layers, distribution layers, and practice fields. That's what they are. But none of those things equal ownership. Discovery is not depth. Okay. Distribution is not trust. And practice is not permanence. That's the distinction. The platforms are not where your audience lives. Hear that. I know that's what we think, but it's not where your audience lived. It's, for lack of a better term, where they're harvested. It's not where they live. Audience lives where you can reach people directly. Think about that. Where can you reach people directly? Not if the algorithm says that they'll show it to me and I might be lucky. No, if I send it, my people will see it. You can reach them directly. You are not at the mercy of the algorithm changes. Context and nuance are allowed, right? So what does that mean? You're not limited to 15 seconds to do something. You're not fighting the attention of the scroll. You're not forced to oversimplify your thinking into hooks. Those are the things that's where our audience needs to live, right? So that leads me to a very obvious, yet sometimes uncomfortable truth. Everyone here with me still? Email is still gold and will be for the foreseeable future. Email wins in 2026 because it's owned, it's direct, it supports long form thinking, it allows repetition without penalty, it builds memory, not just moments. And here's the thing, the ROI, return on investment for email marketing, it has not gone down. With all the cool tech, all the new stuff, all the fandangled approaches, it has not gone down. And in fact, it's gone up. It's about 38 used to be the number, and it can average up to $42, as in dollars, return for every dollar spent on your email marketing. It has been at the top of ROI rankings for the last 15 to 20 years compared to all the other spaces. I hear you. Email's not sexy. I know. Email's stable. Email's stable. And here's the thing, in these volatile tech environments, stability is leverage. Stability is like the coolest thing, okay? It really is. It's important, right? Important nuance, right? To keep in mind, because this is where people really mess up. Email also isn't the audience, but email is the container for the audience. An email list with no trust is just a database. And I've seen this done before. Okay, Tanya, I heard you. I got the email list and I keep sending them all my sales and nobody is buying. Yeah, it sounds like you're sending out sales to a database, not to people you've been connecting with, guiding, teaching, and being a useful voice in their space, right? I always tell my clients, like, how have you earned that position in the inbox? And how do you earn to stay there? Because not all of us can read all our emails each day, but I certainly can delete the ones I know I don't need. How do you make sure that yours stays in there? What value are you bringing to the table, right? So an email with no trust is just a database. And an email list with resonance, that's a business asset, okay? So if you made it this far, how to actually build an audience in 2026. This is what we're getting into here. So if we go, if reach is cheap, if trust is scarce, if social isn't ownership, if email is infrastructure, how do you actually build an audience? Now you're going to do 3 things, okay? 3 things to build this audience. First, you need to get clear on who you're speaking to. Not everyone who needs help, not entrepreneurs, women in business. Who specifically do you want in the room? Who exactly is this for? What do they care about? What frustrates them? What standards do they hold? What stage are they in? What problem are they actively trying to solve? And what do they already believe about that problem? It is the difference between who you can help and who you help best. And that's one of my favorite clarifying questions because we go, who I can help? Man, that list, I could help them. Could I help? Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's so much I can help them all. Who do you help best? Man, if somebody's dealing with this, and this, I can really, really help them with that. That is clarity, right? Between who has the problem versus who you love to serve. That's the clarity that we need in getting clear on who you're speaking to. Audience building starts with super clear intention, not exposure. And now, hear this, I am not preaching the niche. So if you want to serve 5 different people, you go ahead and do that. You just need to know that each one of those types of people and groups, they need their own messaging. So it's just more work, right? It's not a bigger net because that's usually why we don't want to niche down. We're like, oh, but I could get so many more people. It's not a bigger net. It's more work. It's more work. And it's the same size net for all the same people. But now you have to do 5 times the work for each of your audience verticals. Now, for some people, it does make sense. There's a reason and a commitment to that. And I get it. Just understand that an umbrella message that you get to use. You are going to have to institute that nuance in there. All right. So number 1 of creating the audiences in 2026 is you get clear on who you're speaking to. Number 2, you create consistent perspective-based content, right? To be discovered, not to sell. So not random tips, not trend participation, not, just the whatever's, the coolest, neatest thing that you thought about or what you're doing today. You're going to publish thinking that reflects your standards, your opinions, your filters, your reasoning, your methods and approach. And you repeat those ideas in different ways. It's not about being clever. It's about creating familiarity with your audience. If you have someone on a sales call, it should not be the first time that they're learning about your product or process. Too often, we're treating those sales calls as this like presentation. Here's my pitch in like 18 slides. No. They should be so clear on what we do and how we help people that by the time we're on that call, it's just a decision on whether or not it's for them, right? Audience forms around your repeated perspective, right? That's what we talked about in the beginning here, the perspective. You stop trying to sound impressive and you start saying what you actually think, right? I think we've all heard the thought leadership and it sounds so woo. It's just you being bold enough to start saying what you actually think. Now, this is not about going off the rails or doing anything like that, but if you go, I don't like doing this, and I think this is a better way to do it, say that, share that. As for content, it's so important that we are really showing up in a consistent way that is not just filler, right? Again, like we said, too often we're treating audience like a marketing task. It is the asset that is worth true attention to. And the other thing I want to throw in here before we move on to the last one and number 3, for content, it really is about integrated systems over isolated tactics. What does that big thing mean? A lot of us are thinking of good ideas, or we go and say, here's some great ideas on what to post or what you could do. And this one works, or this is fun. Those are one-offs. Those are one-off tactics. But if you really want to create an audience, you want to create someone that's going to be with you, those, as Seth Godin says, the 1,000 true fans, which is all we really need for a successful business, not 1,000 followers, true fans. Then what we do is we have a system for our content, something that follows a structured content plan, that it has a purpose and a reason, and it's meaningful as to why we're having this discussion. All right. So I'm going to give 3 things that this needs to be for your engagement system, right? A structured content plan, a process for repurposing one idea across multiple platforms if you're using them, and making sure you're paying attention to responding to behavioral triggers, as they call it in the industry, which are things like when somebody downloads your guide or replies to your email or asks a question, that it's not just oh my gosh, I got to get back to it, but you actually know and have a system that is purposeful to do that, right? Success increasingly relies on your systems understanding rather than random posting, okay? So number 1, get clear on who you're speaking to. Number 2, create consistent perspective-based content. And number 3, you move people to somewhere you own. This is where a ton of us drop the ball. Your content must lead somewhere. All roads lead to Rome. Where is your Rome? Right? And that means a clear call to an opt in, a lead magnet that solves something specific, a landing page that reinforces your perspective, an email sequence that deepens trust. I know, again, this doesn't sound like the most exciting, but that's what it is. Consistency in business is profoundly boring sometimes, but the rewards are incredible because you get to focus on impact and not your emails, right? That's the goal here. So, social is where they find you, email is where they stay. Hear that. Social is where they find you, email is where they stay. You give them a reason to opt in. A lead magnet that solves something real, a newsletter that is consistent, a place where your thinking compounds, and then you keep showing up. Not louder, not trendier, just clearer, more consistent, more aligned. That is how audience is built now. It is slow, it's intentional, it's relational, and it is owned. I am not impressed with your 10K plus followers if they're not engaged. I'm not impressed. I mean, I don't think you impress me anyway, but it doesn't matter. The numbers don't mean anything because the tactics to get more numbers are not the same tactics to actually get more conversions or people that you can support. All right. The truth is when you build an audience this way, selling stops feeling like a persuasion because you're not convincing strangers. That's the difference, right? Convincing strangers takes just that, convincing. In fact, I saw this thing. I think my son was watching, or someone was watching it the other day. And these guys had a contest with each other, and they had to convince someone to get into the back of a van and to go into like a secret place. This is already starting really wild. But if they did, the end, they were going to get an iPad, or like some people got a couple $1,000s, like, but they had no idea that that was actually what's happening. They were just kind of like, hey, you trust me? Come. And a lot of people obviously were like, no. And then a few wild people were like, yeah, I got nothing else to do today. But is that the audience we want to build? That I got nothing else to do today, folks? Or the people who go, oh no, I know you and I'll get in the van because I trust you, right? That's what we want. We're inviting people who already understand you. That is the shift. And the key is if you're missing one of those components, you don't have an audience building system. You have an activity. An activity is not the same thing as building. So that's where we are today. That's where we've landed. Our first live today. Thank you all for coming and being here. But again, the space and idea and concepts for audience building in 2026, they are, if anything, they're not new. If simplified, and it's more of a return to the core basics. I think we got lost in a lot of the tax and hacks and cool platforms and all of these different things that we got mixed up in a lot of extra stuff that we didn't need to do. And if you like reels, do reels, but there's no requirement. What's required is that you learn what it really is like to connect with your audience. So there we are. If you like this, let me know, but that's what we have for today. If something clicked for you, drop it in the comments. I do read them. And if you haven't already, you can grab our goals to game plan book in the show notes below, or book a strategy building session with me. There is no catch and no sales pitch, just two humans troubleshooting a dream. So our M360 members, we can continue the conversation in our portal, and we have our Q&A. Next session, we will dive more into specifics of messaging, emails, and more. So thanks again for joining me. I am Tanya MFK, the lady that's ready for mastery, and I'll see you next time.